Okay, I really love this idea. I want to talk about it for just a second here. I think as a group with your followers, maybe we can do a weekly joyful resistance. We could do a smaller group of 3 or 4 to take ideas from others and come up with weekly ideas. I'm really interested in what people think of this concept of joyful resistance. What does it look like? What does that mean to you? Because I often say, like, joy is resistance, choosing to engage in activities that are meaningful, that bring you joy, that improve your quality of life when you are living under a would-be fascist regime. It seeks to inflict suffering, deprive you of any quality of life, and dehumanize you, right? Like, intentionally choosing to embrace activities that bring you joy, that is resistance. Is refusing to succumb to the deprivation and the demoralization of the regime. But I would love to know what people think specifically joyful resistance is, what that means to you. Because, like, okay, for me personally, I am struggling. My mental health is not that great. I'm not sleeping well. I'm not eating well, but it actually has nothing to do with what's going on in our country in terms of Donald Trump's efforts to destroy our democracy. It's from a personal traumatic event that I went through. I am on a very personal level riding the struggle bus really hard. And so for me, I have actually been looking at resistance, organizing activities, community, getting together with other folks for Indivisible, planning for No King's Day. For me, resistance activities have actually been a source of joy, a source of encouragement. They're helping me, I don't want to say process a traumatic event, but they're helping provide balance, right? It's a balm to my weary soul, for lack of a better phrase. So reading this comment, first of all, I think any time that we are partnering with other people, that we are doing the work of encouraging other people, empowering other people, that's crucial and worthy. And yes, we should be doing that, right? Because courage is contagious. Joy is also contagious. I think it's so important for us to build those networks. Now, I personally am going to say plug into your local Indivisible group. That would be my first instinct, would be let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's plug into those groups that already exist and have those conversations with people in our community. What does it look like to reframe our resistance efforts as a joyful experience? What does it look like to see what we're doing to save democracy and defend our communities, not as just like a sacrifice, but as something that can feed and nourish us and create this cyclical relationship? We want that positive feedback loop to be established between us and our resistance work. It can't be just us pouring ourselves out over and over and over until there's nothing left. It has to feed and nourish us at the same time. I know I talk endlessly about how so much of this is our mental game. So much of it is how we choose to frame the situation, what kinds of thoughts we entertain. I feel like I've always got 20,000 things on the tip of my brain and I haven't fully formulated any ideas yet. And this is definitely one of those. But what would it look like to have this expectation, to have this framing of our resistance work as something that we can engage in joyfully, not as something that we are approaching with fear, anxiety, desperation? Having some radical acceptance that this is very hard, this is very difficult work, it's going to ask a lot of us. I don't know, months ago I was much more framing this of we need radical acceptance about how we're all going to have to sacrifice. And I do believe that, right? We have to risk it for a biscuit. We all have to step out and take on personal risk in order to defeat fascism. Don't want the framing to be like you have to suffer, you have to give up something. Because ultimately, I think what we're going through now is not just some sudden incident where Donald Trump and the regime are trying to take away our democracy. No, this is years in the making. Decades. Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, they have been working toward this for decades. This is just revealing a set of circumstances, a mindset, an ideology that has been building in this country. A lot of us were blind to it, and now it's just overt. It's out in the open, right? The rot has been exposed. I was talking to my friend the other week about this. Like, we had our front windows in our house replaced a number of years ago. It's a very old house. It's a fixer-upper. Previous owners did not take good care of it. And we had some issues with the windows in our front sunroom. It used to be a porch. They enclosed it. Y'all, it's just, people with old rundown fixer-upper houses, they know. So the contractor took out the windows and he was just going to replace them. And in doing so, when he opened up the wall, he discovered that the header across the entire front of the house was completely rotten. Like, you could just stick your finger in it. It was just like pith, just completely rotten all the way through it. And so it became a much bigger, more expensive project. He was like, oh, well, the reason that your windows were not in good shape is because this header was rotten. And the reason that was rotten is because the slope of this sunroom, which is, an enclosed porch, was not steep enough. And so the water wasn't draining right. And the previous owner didn't do the flashing right. And that let even more water in. And it was like, you can just back up the line and see the compilation of problems, like a much larger systemic issue that I saw as like, oh, my window is leaking and I have a rotten windowsill. No, 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 no. It was a much larger issue, but it was all kind of hidden, under the plaster. So I was oblivious. I was oblivious to it. And then once that wall was opened up, you cannot deny how bad the rot is. And I feel like that's what's happening in 2025 America. That was all simmering under the surface. That was festering for decades. Now that the scales are off our eyes and we are well aware of how bad it is, it's unfortunate that it had to get this bad before most Americans realized it and before we organized to stop it. I know there have been so many voices since Trump's first term that have been, shaking their fist and trying to get people riled up and organized to stop it. But unfortunately, it had to become severe enough that people would take notice. And I wish that we could have stopped it earlier, but there is sort of a logical progression to these things. Worse it gets, the more out in the open it gets, the more people will wake up and push back against it and want to join the resistance movement. But for me, as a forever optimist permaculture person, I have said from the get-go, like, we don't have to be content at just stopping fascism. Part of our resistance should be to look beyond that, right? To have a greater vision, to have much more that we dream for ourselves and for our country. What are the long-standing systemic issues that we could fix after this? We should not be going back to how it was, right? I'm not going to open up my wall, see the rotten header, and then just be like, okie dokie, just going to put some wood putty in here and close it back up and pretend that that's all fixed. No. America needs a big fucking overhaul. And I think this joyful resistance, part of that is understanding that reality, accepting it, and then being like, holy shit, we get to do the work of actually fixing things. Like we could actually fix things. What is it that we want? Universal health care, better working conditions, livable wages, an end to predatory landlords, taxing the rich their fair share. Think of all the things we could fund: medical research, protecting vulnerable ecosystems. We could end homelessness. We could end poverty. We could have colleges be much more affordable. Sky's the limit. What do you guys want? What are the things that work well in other countries that we've always yearned for here in the States? I know we kind of had this window in 2020 where we could have changed a lot of things about our society, especially when it came to consumerism and corporations exploiting all of us. And we kind of whiffed it there. But now we get a do-over. We get a chance to actually fight for the things that would give us a good quality of life and give us and our children and our children's children prosperity. Gosh, I really think that's part of joyful resistance, is not just like we have to give up so much to stop the bad guy. Like, oh no, we get a chance to build community and connect with other people and build a better America, create a more functional society. Project 2025, the fascists, Donald Trump, they're just like the roadblock in between us and the America that we want to build. We're going to get this job done of stopping them, and then let's go on and get the kind of reforms, the kind of justice, the kind of future America that we all want. For me, that's very much what joyful resistance means. I mean, I guess like if you look at the big picture, that's much more what it means for me. If you look at the small scale joyful resistance, it's like, oh, I get to meet new people. I get to connect with folks. If I'd not been out protesting the other week, I wouldn't have met my neighbor Rosemary and formed that friendship. I get to make a meaningful difference in other people's lives. I get to help do this mutual aid work and help feed my neighbors. Like, have a little bit of extra income right now. I can give that to the ACLU, and holy cow, they just stopped the Trump regime doing this thing, right? They just won in court today, and I was a small part of that. I contributed to that. Wow, that feels really good. I think that we can look at the big picture and find joy in that, and I think like our small little actions are also places where we can be like, oh yeah, that feels really good. It's okay to say that this was enjoyable. It's okay to say I feel good about the work that I'm doing now. It's okay for me to feel an emotional reward, to build relationships, to enjoy the work of resistance. So I don't know, I would love to see more people talking about this in an organized way. How can we encourage each other, not just overarching philosophical wise, but really, concrete actions? What does it look like to engage in joyful resistance? And how can we help other people take that approach and then get that yield? In permaculture, we always say every action needs to obtain a yield, right? Obtain a yield. How can we obtain the yield of furthering the cause of defending our democracy and protecting our rights and our neighbors, and at the same time enjoying it while we're doing it? I don't know. I would love your ideas. I would love your thoughts. Y'all have way smarter ideas than I could ever come up with. I'm perennially encouraged and awed by all of the things that people, all the insightful actions that people are engaged in, all of the creativity. So hit me with it. I would love to know, what do you think joyful resistance looks like? How do we help it spread?